Hello, everyone. It is Sunday night, and we are coming to you live from inside of Bat City Comic Professionals in Bradenton, Florida, to help you wind down your weekend with all of this week's indie and small press new releases, and maybe a couple from last week that I didn't get to. As always, I'm your host, Shannon, aka Small Press Shann, and I'm going to be very excited about comics, and hopefully you will too. So if you are joining us either live while we're watching, running this on Facebook, or if you're catching it later on YouTube, let us know what books you're loving right now, what you're reading, what you're into. We want to hear all about it so we can keep that conversation going. And as always, if we're going to wind down our weekend, we've got to kick it off with what we're winding it down with. So this week we are drinking Hess Select. It's a Cab Sav, and I believe it was given to us by our friend Kevin. So thank you, Kevin, for dropping this off and giving us something to try. I'm excited. I'm always happy when people bring wine, not because it's free wine, which is of course a great thing to be excited about, but I'm happy because I love to see what other people suggest, or after watching the show, especially when they're non-wine drinkers and they think I want to go out and find one that matches what kind of stuff they're drinking on the show. So I'm always excited to see what people bring. So we're going to give this a taste. Oh, that's very smooth. Oh my gosh, that's completely smooth. A little bit of spice on the back, after, right now, it's finally starting to hit, with the spice, but otherwise it's just, It's
very nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That is, just an American, California Cab Sav. They've been a family-owned business, though, since 1978, so that's super cool. I love to see that. Like I said, we're going to be drinking Hess throughout the show tonight, get us kind of winding down our weekend, getting excited about all the things that are going on at Bat City and all the new comics that came out. Which, speaking of all the things going on at Bat City, this week was a great week because we had, of course, Halloween, which is always a fun time. We had great fun. I hope that you all did too. I hope everybody got to go out and trick-or-treat with the young ones and celebrate in whatever way that it feels most comfortable for them on Halloween, because it's such a great holiday, and I hope that everybody had a fun time. But we had Story Spelunkers yesterday, Sunday Crafternoon today, and there is so much more to come in November. If you didn't know, we just dropped our November calendar, and there is already a bunch going on. This Saturday, the 9th, we've got comic creation workshops from 11:30, one at 11:30 in the morning, one at 3:30 in the afternoon. We've got a manga meetup next Wednesday at 6 p.m. We're going to be out with our friends at the Rocky Bluff Library on November 16th for their fall festival. And then, speaking of fall festivals, on November 23rd, we are going to have our first ever Bat City Heroes Harvest Festival. And I am so excited about this because the big part of the whole thing is we are going to have the first ever Bat City Chili Cook-Off. I am so excited about that. That is it might just be an excuse for me to eat chili that other people make. But again, first ever Bat City Chili Cook-Off. Woo! Yay! I'm glad the Peanut Gallery was there to cheer me on. It is going to be so much fun. That is the 23rd from 12 to 4. If you want to enter your world-famous chili, you can do that. You just need to email us or shoot us a message. Or if you're a regular customer, you can always come into the store and give me your contact information, because I'm going to send out all of the information to everybody beforehand. So that's coming up. It's going to be really exciting. The other thing that is really exciting, that is completely new, that we've never done at Bat City before, is it is the month of Thanksgiving, and we want to take the time to give thanks to all of you for all the things that you've done, all the support you've given us over the many years of Bat City. And so we are actually going to have a different item or category on sale every day in the shop. That's every day between now and Thanksgiving. There is going to be something on sale. And so this Wednesday, All of our pink sticker items, which you may know as $5 items, are all going to be $1 off. So any of those backstock comics with a pink sticker, when you come in on Wednesday, all $1 off. Incentives are going to be buy one, get one free this Thursday. Backstock comics under $10 are going to be 20% off on Friday. It is going to be so many things like that all month long. And that calendar is actually coming to you on Instagram and Facebook very, very soon. Wild, crazy lights. So it is, we're going to have that calendar coming up either tonight or tomorrow. I've already made it. It's actually going to be on the events calendar. So we're just going to update the events calendar to actually have all of those sale items on there. And there's going to be something every day. So no matter what day you come in, there's going to be a sale going on. But if there's something specific that you've been waiting for, it may go on sale at one point during the month. This is all obviously going to lead up to Thanksgiving and Small Business Saturday at the end of the month. But seriously, massive calendar coming your way with all the sales and stuff. And it is beautiful and in color on the internet. But we will actually print one of these out in the store too so that it can be hanging up so you can keep track of it up at the front. And it'll be something you can, keep your eye on. Other announcements that I have to just shout out. We talked about this book last week, but we totally missed it because we didn't read the back cover. So I have to do a cool shout out to our friend Mike from Robot and Girl. And the fact that Bat City got mentioned in the back of the book because we love this book so very much. And so there's a quote from myself and Matt about how much we love Robot and Girl, which is one of our favorite books. The most heartfelt, wonderful, adorable thing. Thank you so much for putting us in there, Mike. And you can grab a copy of this, obviously, in the store. This is issue 4. We have copies of this, but if you haven't read the series yet, make sure you pop by the store just to grab it in general because it is the most heartfelt, adorable, wonderful thing, and you're not going to want to miss it. All right, I'm going to take another drink of our Hess wine, and then I'm going to kick off talking about some books. All right. I wonder if 2020 was a good year for grapes. I've seen a lot of 2020 wines starting to, circulate. And I just wonder, was that a good year? I know the environment reclaimed a lot of space that year since we were all inside and not messing stuff up. So I'm I wonder, is there something special about the crop that year? Something good had to come out of 2020. I mean, something great came out of 2020. I married Matt. But for the rest of the world who doesn't get to be married to Matt every day. All right, we're going to talk about some comics, and we're going to kick it off with Kaya issue 22 from Image Comics. I am so excited to say that there is an all-ages book that is on issue 22. How many times do we get to actually talk about all-ages titles that go that long? That is incredible. So congratulations on that alone to Kaya. But if you have not read this story, this is about a young girl who once believed that she was the chosen one, only to find out that it was actually her younger brother. And her job has become being his protector. And as all of the humans and their tribe have been wiped out, she has to figure out a way to get him to these ancient elders who can actually train him on the magic to save what remains of any people that may be scattered across the world, and to stop kind of this evil empire that is coming for them. In this issue, they've actually been separated once again because Kaya, while she is great, is also terrible at keeping up with her brother. And so he has been taken by the ultimate bad guys that they're supposed to be fighting, and she has to run back and try to save him. Meanwhile, a trickster god is possibly on their side, possibly very much working against them. Who knows? He's a trickster. We're going to find out. But this adventure just keeps getting bigger and bigger. And between the amazing colors and fantastic art and a heartfelt story, you definitely don't want to miss this. And again, all ages. We have kids subscribers all the way up to 60-year-old subscribers for this book. And everybody that's reading it is loving it. So, maybe you should grab it. There's trade paperbacks for the first 2 arcs already. Thundercats issue 9 from Dynamite. If you are a fan of classic 80s cartoons, this is your time to be a comic fan as well, because they are everywhere. And this is kind of one of those, Transformers is leading the pack, but right behind that is Thundercats, with people really getting to relive their childhood. And in this story, the Thundercats themselves have been taken away from their home on Thundara and have landed on what they are calling the Third Earth. And they've been trying to rebuild their home and kind of give themselves a space to live here. But all of their worst enemies have apparently also found their way to this planet. And now they are dealing with the fact that they are coming for them. And everybody has kind of had their own little adventure so far, but a suddenly adult Lion-O finds himself struggling to lead as these bad guys do come their way. Again, if you are fans of the animated show of the Thundercats, you definitely need to be reading this. This is definitely a love letter to those 80s cartoons, and you are going to want to grab that. Red Coat, issue 7, from Image and their Ghost Machine line. This is Jeff Johns spearheading a new world at Image, very much similar to kind of those early days of Image, where creators really got to go crazy on some of their books. And this is actually written by Jeff Johns, and this is a story of Simon Pure, who is, as he likes to say, anything but. And Simon was a Red Coat during, Revolutionary War in America, and he ends up seeing the Founding Fathers in the middle of a very dangerous spell that is going to give them an everlasting life. And somehow, as always, he messes that up and falls right into it himself, and now lives forever. In the first arc of the story that we've seen, we've kind of followed him as a young boy named Albert Einstein showed up to tell him he was the only one who can save the world. And as Simon really has no desire to do anything other than drink and slack off, he's very offended by the fact that he has to work hard. What I love about this issue particularly is, while we've kind of wrapped up a lot of that, Jeff Johns gave us one more issue with that team, and now we're at a point where Einstein is elderly and on his deathbed, and Simon is still coming to him to have those conversations and tell of his adventures. And we kind of don't see how we wrapped it all up perfectly to get to this point. And I love that there's these little hints from Einstein and from Simon of what actually happened in the behind the scenes, and those little hints before we went from issue 6 to issue 7. This is the end of the arc. It's going to jump into a new one almost immediately, but you need to jump in on this series. Honestly, it is the surprise book for me from Ghost Machine. I thought this was going to be the one that I wasn't as interested in, and it turned out to be one of the ones that I'm really excited every week it comes out to see where it's going to go next. So definitely check it out. Uncanny Valley, issue 6, from Boom Studios and our friend Tony Fleece. For those of you who are fans of Roger Rabbit, if you have never picked up this book, I don't know why, because this is literally, legitimately Tony's love letter to Roger Rabbit and stories like that. He and I were talking about how much he always loved those movies, and wanted to have his own world where he could kind of take reality and blend it with animated worlds. And so in this book, he does just that. And we've been following the story of a young boy who is human, but finds out that his family is somehow half cartoon. And he gets sucked into the cartoon world, where they are undergoing a very dangerous situation. And this evil sorcerer has kind of sent everybody looking for him, trying to stop this human and use him for some kind of purpose. And what I love about this issue is we finally learned what that purpose is. We learned what happened to the cartoon world, how the human world kind of became the favorite of the gods, and the cartoon world got stuck just kind of suffering at the hands of whatever bad decisions we as humans made. But we also learned the backstory of the cartoon family, and how the beautiful story of love that led to our young boy and his family being connected to the cartoon world. This was a fantastic issue. Tony really, really brought it with this story. I love how he connected so many different pieces of the puzzle that we've already seen in this book, but also gave us so much more to go on. And I love who he's made this ultimate bad guy and the world that they kind of ran from. Absolutely beautiful, wonderful story. If you haven't read it, and again, if you're a fan of anything like Cool World or Roger Rabbit or any of those worlds where the fantasy and the reality blend together, you absolutely are missing out if you're not reading Uncanny Valley. And because I have this completely out of order, but I was just apparently excited to put all of my Tony books next to each other, we also have Feral issue 7 out this week from Image. We just had the Feral team here of Tony Fleece, Tris Forstner, and Tone Rodriguez, and it was the most fun. They were such an absolute treat to have to kind of kick off our Halloween weekend. And it was so fun to get to learn a lot about this book. So if you haven't read it, this is essentially the Walking Dead zombie apocalypse kind of situation, except your characters are cats. And so what would that seem like to a cat who suddenly all other animals were rabid and were feral, literally going after them, and people are rounding up animals, trying to put them in cages, trying to kind of put them down so that they can make sure that they stay safe away from them. And a group of cats is just trying their best to make it through this world. And it's house cats too, so they've never really been out on their own, and they've never had to go through all of this darkness. And so it's so good to see how they kind of do it. And really it does read so much like The Walking Dead, where it's like, you know, oh, we can't take anybody else in. We need to watch out for anything we find. We need to be careful of, you know, who we are, and like everybody has to get checked to see if they were bit or scratched in every situation where they stop. We even have new young kids coming into the group. So it's fantastic, and you've got to check it out. It is the companion book to Stray Dogs, in that we are getting that Disney style animation with the horror that is animalistic, and you've got to read it if you grab Stray Dogs, and you're still getting those horror movie covers as your variants. There's so many. Oh my gosh. We've got Quested issue 5 from volume 2, which is from Massive. This is one of those books, when it first started, I was like, this is kind of absurd and ridiculous, and now it has just grown so much deeper and become such a good story that I'm just kind of want it to come out more often, honestly. But it started out as the story of a guy who is a quester in a fantasy world, and it kind of read a lot like I Hate Fairyland, and it kind of looked like it too, but he was always running scams to do his questing. And at the end of volume 1, he finds himself in a position where he's going to have to go hunt down his own father in the Underbrawn, which is kind of like the underworld of where they live. And he's been doing that in the last 4 issues of this. And in the last issue, which came out quite a while ago, so it's a little hard for some people maybe to remember that this is still going. But in that last issue, he found out that his mother, who he always thought was not alive, was also still alive, and that she is actually the person who imprisoned his father. And in this issue, we actually get the entire backstory of how his parents met and how his dad became kind of this evil person in the world, and also maybe a lot about where he gets his scamming from. And it's a really beautiful story of mother, son, father, and how they all connect, and the dangers of actually letting the father go, and where that might lead them all, and the sacrifices his mom has to make. Nice House by the Sea, issue 4. I usually skip this because it's a DC book, but I'm bringing it to you this week because it's now considered a Vertigo book. If you did not hear the news coming out of New York Comic Con, Vertigo is back. DC is going to be putting out a lot of their alternative titles under the Vertigo label again, which is really exciting for those of us who are indie fans who kind of miss that world that DC used to have through the Vertigo imprint. And it's back. So, yay. If you don't know this is actually the sequel to Nice House on the Lake. Nice House on the Lake is a James Tynion story that was coming out for a while. It was a 12-issue series that we thought was going to be a 12-issue mini about a world where essentially the world is ending and a bunch of people are saved by one of their friends to go live in a nice house by the lake, only to find out that they are kind of like the only survivors of this world, and that there's a reason each of them are selected, and we don't really know like how they're going to get out of it and where that's going to go or lead them, even by the end of that first series. But now with Nice House by the Sea, we learned that there is actually more than one house, and there is more than one group of people, and maybe there's going to be an ultimate like only one group can survive kind of situation. But we are learning the interconnectivity of all of these houses and the people that are connected to them and the people who put them there. And a lot of times, Volume 1, Nice House on the Lake, got a little convoluted in what it was doing. And this is kind of putting it all into perspective and giving us those like loose, like weird, like knots coming untied and putting it all together in a way that's just really fantastic. And it's great to have the whole creative team back again. You do have to read Nice House on the Lake in order to read Nice House by the Sea. Issue 1 kind of seems like it might be its own thing, and then it immediately connects to the other. So if you did not read it, Nice House by the Lake is in trade paperback. You can grab that and then jump into this one from there. Kosher Mafia, issue 3 from Mad Cave. This has been such a great book. This is all about a man who works as an accountant for the Kosher Mafia, and he is working with this group in early days of like of America kind of really putting its feet on the ground, and in those like 1930s of trying to just civilize out from the gangs essentially. And these guys are one of the accountant comes up with a idea that he thinks that they should pursue against another group of people, and kind of brings the facts to the table, and they don't want to hear it, and so they put a hit out on him. But the hitman actually agrees with him, and so the two of them have teamed up and are now like, hey, let's go against them. Let's figure out a way to prove that what our idea is actually the direction that the mafia should go in, and let's kind of get them on our side. Except they find out that these two are working together, and they immediately put a hit out on both of them, and they open it up so that every other mob family can come after this hitman who has taken out people from every single family. So now they've got all the families after them, including their own, and they have one saving grace, that they might have a day of peace if they can get to their own neighborhood and make sure that nobody catches them or kills them beforehand. Really great. If you haven't checked it out yet, highly recommended. Mad Cave crushing it as always, and such a good story, such a deep story too. There's so much in it. Defenders of the Earth, issue 3, also from Mad Cave, and this is a part of your Flash Gordon universe. And it's bringing back a couple more, like the Great Mandrake and the Phantom. In fact, Defenders of the Earth is almost completely a Phantom story. So if you are a fan of old pulp heroes, this is definitely a book for you. We found out in the first issue that Flash Gordon saved the world so many times that he's kind of just famous, and he's running his own business empire and is doing the terrible job of keeping up with his friends and his own son. Meanwhile, our Phantom, who we know from all of the times since the 1940s, saving the day, is actually stuck with Mandrake and in his home, and is unable to return to his own world, which is now being run by his brother, who is claiming to be the Phantom, but is using the power for evil and also trying to corrupt the Phantom's daughter. And he needs to get home in order to do that, but he is unable to leave the place that he's at. And so he is dealing with a lot of problems locally, only to find out also that Flash Gordon, who thinks he has his whole life together, is getting in some problems of his own. So the Defenders of the Earth are having to come together and figure out how to fight battles all across the world when they aren't really working together in the way they should. And we get to see the Phantom kind of had an argument with the Council of Phantoms over the fact that the terminology that they've used has led them into some places that just don't give the best candidate the role for the role, the job that they deserve, and he's trying to fix that. Again, very pulpy, very fun for those of you who are fans of those characters. This is a great way to get a new story. Sesame Street, Cookie Monster's Dinner Party. This is issue 3 of Sesame Street from Oni Press, and it is one of my favorite books on the shelf. You cannot be sad and read Sesame Street. Like, you just can't. And you need to be happy. If you need to be happy, you need to grab it. And in this issue, Cookie Monster is planning a dinner party for a bunch of his friends. And he's got a whole list of all the things that he needs to do. And it's so cute because every time he makes the list, he keeps names everything he has to do. And then he's like, and something Cookie Monster is forgetting. And then he gets some of the tasks done, and he's like, oh no, and that other thing that Cookie Monster's forgetting. And finally he gets to the last thing, and he realizes what he's forgetting is he didn't make cookies for the dinner party. And now he's panicking because he thinks he has to make cookies, and he is so nervous, and all of his friends immediately show up. Because that's what happens when you're late and you're running behind. All of your friends actually show up on time. And everybody's coming in with all their favorite foods. And Cookie Monster feels so bad because he doesn't have his favorite food. And he's trying to get his friends distracted so that he can go in the kitchen to make the cookies. And Big Bird realizes that there's something up with Cookie Monster and goes to talk to him about the fact that he seems very distracted, only to learn that Cookie Monster forgot to make cookies. And Big Bird reminds him that they're all friends and they're all there to have fun together. So maybe they could just make the cookies as friends. And it turns out to be a wonderful dinner party and a great reminder for adults everywhere that things don't have to go perfect all the time. We can all learn to kind of be like Cookie Monster or be like Big Bird says for Cookie Monster to be. You got your schedule, you got all your things, you think you're nailing it and it's perfect, and then you stress because you're forgetting the one thing. But sometimes your friends really just want to be together, and you should enjoy the moment when you can. Deadly Trails, issue 3 from Black Box Comics. This is all about a guy who is on that quest. It's like very Old West kind of feeling. This cowboy is in this particular one, he needs to find a certain dagger that is going to be very important to his quest. And as he is doing that, he ends up crossing paths with some very dangerous, like crocodile dragon kind of things. They are scary and terrifying. And the people who come to save him are actually the women of the town that he's specifically looking for, and the daughter of the man who has the dagger that he needs. And he finds out that all of the men of the town have been stolen by the female dragon type creatures that are trying to kill them and keep them and save them for their children to eat later. And so they must go through and save all of the men of the town in order to get the dagger he needs, but also just to help his friends in need. And we get to go on a wild adventure in the process of doing that and meet some really cool characters. So I hope continue to come back as the series goes on. We kind of each one see a different town and a different group of people, but I kind of really love these ladies that are warrior ladies, and so I hope they come back. We've got Corvus, issue 2 from Dead Sky. I think this is another one of those books that's got such a deep, intricate plot, and that people are have no idea that this crazy, awesome book is happening. But this is about a guy who happens to be very good at a video game and gets recruited to be a part of this space mission, and he thinks it's all kind of crap because he thinks that the weird thing that they're all you're really good at this video game, we need you. And he finds out in this issue that they're all actually good at this video game, and that's what drew them all into this battle, and that maybe the video game isn't just a video game. And now he's on this space station, and there is an alien attack coming, and they expect him to automatically kind of know what to do because of his experience with this game. And as he goes into battle, he thinks he does kind of seem to know what's going on, but he kind of has some freak out moments. And the aliens come and bad things happen. And whether or not he's going to be prepared for actually doing things in real life, we're going to find out as the story continues. But it's one of those books where you're like, oh, everybody will be fine because there's not that many characters. And then you're like, oh, everybody is not fine. In fact, nobody is fine. And I don't know how we're going to come out of this on the other side of issue 2. So I have to read issue 3 to find out. The Body Trade, issue 2 from Mad Cave. This actually came out last week and I didn't get it. It was one of the books that I didn't get to in the pile of 75 books last week from the 3 weeks of catching up. And so I'm excited that I finally got to it. So essentially, we have a father who is on a very big vengeance mission because he finds out that his estranged son has passed away, and when he goes to figure out like what happened and what the funeral is going to do and stuff, he finds out that his son has been put into this body trade program, which essentially means that what he learns in this issue is that there's a corporation that when you pass away, they take all of your different body parts and they kind of give them to different organizations, corporations, scientists, things like that to work on and research on. But it doesn't seem like it's by choice, and it doesn't seem like he's okay with the fact that this happened. And so he breaks in and is trying to get the answers he needs, only to find out that those are the answers that he does not want. And he is going to have to burn it all to the ground. And we're going to get to watch him do that. And it's going to be super cool. I can't wait to see where this goes. This is another one of those where I'm like, ooh, there is so much to this story. And it is just now starting to unfold. I actually really like this skull design in the back that's made out of like people standing around. Like, it's kind of cool. You have to like, you don't register that it's a skull at first. Then you back it up and it's crazy. That's kind of how the book feels as a whole. So we're going to see where that goes. Black, White, and Bloodshot, issue 2 from Valiant. If you are a fan of Bloodshot or want to get to know the character, this is a way to do it because this is an anthology like all Black, White, and Blood anthologies of the big 2. This is one for Bloodshot specifically. And there's a couple different stories in here. The first one is one where Bloodshot meets a time-traveling scientist and is pulled into the future where he learns there's a new Bloodshot, and he kind of works with them to figure out what is going on. But at the same time, like, they kind of figure it out and they don't inform him of how they solved it, and he just suddenly finds himself like back in his time, and he's like, I wonder what is happening and where this is going to go. So there's like setups for more stories to come out of it, and kind of left it a little open on that one. And then we get a story in here that's called Patterns, and it's all silence, and it's just Bloodshot style characters fighting in different rooms of this giant maze. And as it zooms out off and on, you see more and more people fighting, and it's just kind of really cool art to look at, especially in a Black, White, and Blood kind of book where it is just only the red of the blood and the Bloodshot like marker show up. And then the last, I think it's the last story. Is it the last story? Yeah, the last story in there is actually from Timmy Heeg, who's the owner of Arsenal Comics. And this is a story of Bloodshot kind of getting back involved in some things. And going into some big missions, and I love it because you get to see him. He's kind of, I love this the wild motorcycle thing. But this fight gets crazy because he is fighting somebody who has a weapon that kind of blocks the nanites that make Bloodshot be able to heal, I guess is the word I'm looking for. And so like he's getting like cut up and torn up and everything, and he ends up like having to figure out how to like stop that in order to regenerate, that's the word I'm looking for, and get his battle back on and see if he can survive the mission. But just another, if you like the ones like Black, White, and or Black, Red, and Blood, like Wolverine kind of stories and things like that, you might really enjoy seeing one for Bloodshot. The Tin Can Society, issue 2 from Image, also a book that came out last week that I didn't get to. And very excited that I got to go back and check this one out. So the Tin Can Society, they're only on issue 2, so you may not have caught issue 1. This is all about a group of friends who, when they were in like elementary school, a new boy comes to town and he has he has a debilitating disease that causes him to use bracers and have essentially so many different, like, he can't eat certain foods, he can't have certain thing like air quality around him and things like that, and so he's just kind of always suffered, and he finally gets to make friends with some people who kind of jump in and save his life when he's choking on some food, and they become a group of kids called the Tin Can Society because he keeps a tin can hidden of all the things he wishes he could do but can't. In issue 2, we fast forward to the future and we find out that he has been murdered, and I guess we find out in issue 1 he's been murdered, and they are trying to solve, his friends are now trying to solve the mystery, but none of them have talked to each other really since they kind of separated when he became the most famous person in the world for all of his inventions. And so now they're kind of having to come back together and piece things that each of them know, because they all kind of stayed in touch with him, but they didn't stay in touch with each other. And so they each kind of know a different piece of the puzzle, and they're trying to solve it on their own. And now in issue 2, they finally start to jump together and see where this is going to go. And I can't wait to see where it's going to go, because I love the fact that there's so many different pieces of the puzzle. And we still don't really know a lot about what this guy really was up to and what he created, but we know that it was big and it changed the world, and it might be the very reason why people came after him. Knights versus Samurai, issue 2 from Image Comics. This is really just one of those situations where I think somebody was like, I really wish we could have seen something where knights got to fight samurai, and we put it together. And actually, it's David Dashmelian who is the Polka Dot Man. Tasmakian. Is that how he says it?
I think that's how he says it.
That sounds right. He is, and in the story, in issue 1, we had a guy who was like the ultimate knight. He worked for, the leaders of the town, and they sent him on all the quests to slay things. And they've given him the assignment to go out and slay this people group that they think are a danger to them. And so when he gets to the place that he's supposed to go, it's filled with samurai, which he's never heard of before, and also is not the description he was given, nor the thing he was supposed to be fighting. But now he is there, and he's like abandoned with his troops there, so he has to figure this out. And these samurai are like, this guy is coming for us, we need to attack him, we need to figure out what's going on. But there is a dragon somewhere that he was sent to slay, and I can't wait to see how these samurais and knights are going to have to come together to battle something, and also to get the shifty guy who left him behind, because there was a lot of double crossing going on, and this guy is going to have to get back at those people somehow. Violent Flowers, issue 2 from Maria Levitt. And Image Comics, and let's see how much I can show you, because Maria Levitt always makes racy comics that are absolutely wonderful. So this is the story of a group of, I can show this page, a group of vampires, and the young girl who wants to come into their group and kind of join into their family, and what she finds out on this first day is that there is an ancient battle going on, and essentially a vampire from the past was put underwater to suffer forever for the sins against the coven of vampires. And she is like finally free of this underwater prison, and it seems that she is exacting her revenge on all of these people. And they are in a panic because they have lost they've lost a very important member of their family who they didn't think that she would go after. And so now the queen is nervous, and she has sent some people out to investigate, and it is not going well. And we are learning that poison arrows and dangerous parties and groups of people who are going against each other, and it is going to get worse for everybody before it gets better. This is only 4 issues, so I imagine that the next issue is just going to be a lot of death and destruction. But we'll see if we can stop this evil vampire, and if she's even the evil one. Who knows? You know, there's, again, double crossing happening all over the place in comics today. Voices in My Head from Image Comics. This is a one-shot that came out for the Halloween season. Another book that I didn't get to last week that I wanted to bring out. There were so many horror one-shots last week, so I had to circle back to some of them. I love the first story in this one. It is The Peculiar Courtship of Miss Penelope Pembroke, and it is all about a woman who is extremely rich in the Victorian era and is the sole heir of a ton of money and this massive fortune of great and wonderful things, including power, and everybody wants to marry her, and she thinks them all beneath her, and so she refuses to accept any offers, and she ends up facing a future that is very different than what everybody else of her time does, and the suitor she chooses for herself seems to be quite dapper in his own way. And then we have a story of a little boy who is very advanced and is born knowing things that nobody else seems to know and is constantly building out this memory. And his mom can't seem to keep up with how much he's learning and how fast, and so she sends him off to these scientists who are studying him as well as some other people, and what we learn about who they are comes into a very big story. And then the next next story in there is about a guy who comes into town and is fighting a demon everybody thinks is Pan, and the reason he is hunting them and the ways he's doing it are discovered, and there's some cool stuff in there. The Gears of Life is all a very dark Pinocchio style story about a man who's worried that his daughter is dying, and so he builds a new body for her and asks the god Odin to bring her spirit into it so that he can save her soul. And what is done with that is actually just beautiful to look at, honestly. I love the way they designed her, and I love the way that Odin's ravens are handled in the story. So I love that I say ravens and Matt gets excited. And then we see the last story is one that is about a man named Kilroy who goes around and just kind of takes out people who are doing evil things throughout. So it's quite a lot of stories in here, and I'd love to see tons of them get worked out into more stories because there were really, really good ones. But if you just need one more horror anthology for the season, this is a good one to grab. Also out last week, Hack Slash Body Bags, issue 1. I thought this was going to be a one-shot celebrating the 20th anniversary of Hack Slash. Turns out it's not. Turns out it's a new miniseries. So if you've never jumped into Hack Slash, there's an image first that can kind of help you know who the characters are, or you can kind of just jump in right here. Which is what's great about all the Hack Slash miniseries, is they kind of give you a little precursor to it in every single one. But this is about a girl named Cassie Hack whose job it is to destroy slashers who are killing people. And in this particular mission, her and her friend Vlad, who is kind of a slasher-looking guy in and of himself, are hunting down a man who is extremely, extremely extra in the way he is a slasher, and I love watching them like make fun of him and everything. And they end up finding out that there is a man who also kind of seems to be more like almost mobstery than slasher, but they need him to help lead them to the slasher that they are hunting down, and he is suddenly finding himself to be a dad for the first time, with a strange daughter showing up who he is trying to figure out how to teach her to be a proper villain, as well as kind of just figure out how to be a dad to a teenage girl who doesn't want to follow any of his rules. You're getting tons of layers of a news story 20 years later, still going strong on Hack Slash, and always just a fun way to celebrate the season. Human Fly, issue 1 from IPI Comics. This is all about the Human Fly, who is an old character, come back, another public domain pulp character, and he's kind of like an Evel Knievel superhero. Somebody who kind of wants to take on all of the daringest stunts and uses that as a way to get to places where he can actually save people. And so in this issue, he is going on tour to try to figure out, to do these daring escapades around the North American continent so that he can raise money for different charities. And in the process of doing that, he has a couple different things that go wrong. One is his new sidekick is attacked on the streets. He has to he sees her defend herself, but also kind of has to step in and figure out who these people are. Also, he can't figure out his big quest, like his big act that he's going to do. And they are struggling with whether or not he's going to actually live if he does the stunt. But he has got to take it on because that's the only way to raise the money that he's trying to raise. And he has a lot of kids that he wants to help and a lot of people that he is trying to save. And so you get a daring adventure, literally, from the Human Fly. The Hexiles, issue 1 from Mad Cave. If you follow along on Santiago Saturday, you'll see this is a book that Santiago included in his choices this week. And it is going to be such a dark, fun story for sure. This is all about a group of people who have never met before, and they find themselves all invited to the same funeral, only to find out that they are all estranged children of the man who died. And because of that, each one of them has some kind of mysterious, weird power that they all know they have, but they don't know why they have it until now, and they don't really know what they're supposed to do with it. They kind of decide they don't want anything to do with this person who was supposed to be their dad, who they find out sold all of their souls to the devil for his own personal gain. And so they're like, we want out, we don't want anything to do with this, but it's too late because you can't change what somebody else has done when they've sold your soul to the devil. And now they are expected to fulfill their requirements or die. And we are going to see them either become a team for the devil or become a team against it. We don't know which way this is going to go just yet, but a big setup already in the works for this story for sure. Speaking of Mad Cave, Hour of the Wolf issue 1 is out this week. And this is part of our big new Mad Cave world that Mark London is creating, who is the creator of Mad Cave. And this is essentially all about, it opens up with a man who is obsessed with this painting. And he's been trying to find it forever, and he does. And after finding the painting and bringing it into his house, the painting essentially comes to life in front of him and is attacking him and threatening his family and everybody he loves if they don't like. And it's like, you can either sacrifice yourself or you can sacrifice your wife and daughter. Makes a choice. And then we get to see the family side of it and what they experience as they kind of find themselves faced with this painting for the first time. Not only that, but we also see this man whose job it is to stop this painting and to stop the evil that has come from it. And he has been searching for it and trying to do this for so long. And we are going to see a little bit about the society that he belongs to and the world that he is supposed to be saving us from. Creepy things coming, very reminiscent of the world that Wolvenhart was building. In fact, he actually calls himself a member of the Wolvenhart family. So I wonder if this is going to connect to that old Mad Cave title in any capacity, or if it's just a coincidence that they have the same kind of last names. We're going to find out because this is only issue 1. So I don't remember. We have the trade. I need to check, or you can check it on the internet. Blood Squad 7 Strike File, issue 1 from Image. We had a little mini-series for Blood Squad 7 that kicked it off, and now this is essentially volume 2 of that, or arc 2 of that. He did?
Yes, Mark London wrote Wolverine.
Wow! I wish I would have known that when I met Mark London. Because I love Wolvenhart so much. Way to use Elizabeth Bathory in your comic, Mark. That was so great. That's what I loved about Wolvenhart. Anyway, with Blood Squad 7, we're essentially looking at a world where 90s superheroes existed. They were very big, very popular, kind of everywhere. And now, 30 years later, they're trying to build that same superhero team with the new generation. And a former member of the team is in charge. And she is learning that it is not the same when you are the one who has to work with like the government and keep everything in line and organized. Well, the first volume of this, they had trouble with one of the original Blood Squad 7 members. And now they're having the same situation with a different original member. And they're having to go out, like the new team has to go out and figure out how to bring him back and how to get him back on track, and whether or not they're going to be able to do that and still build out this team, because now this is like, hey, we're really close to launching that this team is back and that the government has this team of superheroes, but like every time we try to do it, something terrible from the past comes back to haunt us, and also like the new people aren't prepared for it. And so we're going to see, you know, maybe they can get it all together, maybe they can't, but it's a fun ride and a great conversation, very similar to Local Man, giving us that like 90s and now superhero conversation of like, yeah, so we did the job of a superhero, but like there's still people in need and we're not doing the thing to help the people in need. We're just doing the thing the government wants us to do. Like, how does that make us superheroes? Kind of love it. I am going to take another drink because we are flying through these books. So I'm drinking Hess Select. Again, it's Cab Sav, and it's very delicious. Yeah, that's good. And it's sustainably produced. So I'm assuming that means that they just take the rest of the grapes and make something else out of them. I don't really know how wine is, like, not sustainably produced unless you just throw it all away at the end.
The oil and the machines to
right?
process things, I don't know.
So does that mean that there's, like, people that are squishing the grapes, like, on I Love Lucy then,
Probably.
if it's sustainable? That would be cool.
Probably.
I wish they would make wine like that still. I'm sure somebody does in some country, not here. Up next, we've got Sectars, issue 1 from Oni Press and the Nacelle universe. Again, I told you, if you are a fan of old cartoons, now's your time to be in comics. Here's another one for you. And I love that this was pitched to me as basically Game of Thrones of children's cartoons. And it's hilariously so serious. It's great. But this is following the world of the Sectars, who you may or may not remember from the cartoon, who are essentially these insects who, like insect people type things, who ride insects. They like telebond with an insect that becomes their thing that they ride, like dragon riders, but with bugs. And the king has fallen ill and nobody seems to know what happened to him. And the prince, who is very young and very much just kind of wanted to be like that young 20-something guy, has not figured out how to telebond with his ride yet. And they're like, you can't become king if you can't do the bare minimum of our powers. But if your dad doesn't make it, we don't know what to do because your dad is in like a coma. He might not come out. And then you've got like the secret, like the uncle, like planning like the dastardly like backstab behind it. He's like, well, if he can't get his ride right, I guess power just falls to me. And they're like, that's not how this works. He's shady. Who knows? There is an uprising between the villains, and there is now a throne usurping that has led them to actually want to go to battle against the Sectars. I'm telling you guys, I wasn't kidding when I said this is like a very like deep, heavy book for an old cartoon. But there is so much to it, and it is high fantasy, like world building inside of a cartoon with bug people. I would have never guessed that that's where this was going to go, but it is. And so if you haven't checked it out yet and you enjoy those kind of stories, you absolutely need to, because the writing on here is really, really well done. And again, I was completely surprised by what this story was. I also don't remember the Sectars. I do remember the toys. And I remember seeing the toys, and I remember people having the toys. But I don't remember actually like watching the cartoon ever. Matt, did you have the toys? You're
No.
such a... Okay. I'm like, you always have all the toys, so that's why I guess.
That's like Masters of the Universe era.
Okay.
They're early 80s.
Early 80s? There you go. Gen X, it's your time.
Yeah, it's a Gen X.
Mud and Madness, Horror Stories of the Great World Great War from Blood Moon Comics. Another anthology of horror stories, essentially. But these are all in the war. And so World War One. And so the first story actually follows these 3 soldiers as they realize that the guy that is up against them is actually Dracula. And they're like, oh my gosh, we have to figure out how to make it through this war. It's already bad enough, but now we're going against Dracula. He's evil, and a priest comes to kind of help them figure out how to solve it. And, it's just a fun way to blend war and horror in a new direction. And then there's only 2 stories in here, and the second one, is more, kind of feels like a setup for more of the story to come, but we see, 3 of the soldiers trying to make their way across the no man's land in between the 2 trenches. And as they're doing that, they suddenly are surrounded by these people, and they don't know if they're spirits or if they're the enemy soldiers. And then some people come, a man appears who can help save them, but what they come out to on the other side is not what they expected. And so again, just a quick 2-story anthology kind of thing to blend war and horror right as the holiday season wraps up, I guess, for Halloween. Night from Hell, issue 1 from Band of Bards. This is kind of a one-shot introduction of the Knight from Hell, who will be featuring in their Deadly Verse book, which is a series that will include Deadly Living, Unbroken, and a book called Pawn. But this is about a woman who is a firefighter, and she is trying to stop save a kid who is stuck, or a woman who is stuck inside of a burning building. And when she goes in there, the backdraft hits her, and she awakens in a completely different place. And it turns out, it's Band of Bards, there's nothing bad in it, I don't think. She finds herself face to face with essentially the devil, and he's like, hey, I have an offer for you. And she's like, wait, why am I in hell? I'm a firefighter, I'm a good person, essentially. And he's like, yeah, so am I. I'm actually the one who, if you ever think about it, I punish all the bad people. I'm the one that they send the people who have done terrible things to punish them. Wouldn't that mean that I'm the good guy at the end of the day? And she's like, okay, that makes sense, yeah. And so he gives her this power, essentially to be his knight, and sends her back onto the earth to punish people who are doing wicked things in his name. And she goes back, and she is faced immediately with somebody who swears that they are getting vengeance on people as well, but it looks as though they are not doing it for righteous reasons. And they may be from the other side. And so it's kind of a twist and turn of who's the good guy and who's the bad guy, and what are you actually standing for. Really cool. Can't wait to see where that one goes for sure. The Demon Inside, issue 1 from Blood Moon Comics. This is about a girl who, as a child, has a very interesting situation of some demonic possession, and they have to call the priest to exorcise the demon, and they're able to save her. And then it kind of fast forwards to her being a college student, and her friend are planning a night out with the guys that they like, and they just kind of plan their holidays, and they're talking about all the good stuff they want to do and the different things. And you kind of get a really good sense of who each of these people are. And there doesn't seem to be anything wrong with either one of them. But after a sudden and crazy car accident, we learn that there might be something going on. Maybe something lingered just a little bit too much inside of our main character, Eva. And what is coming for her, or what is she unleashing, are 2 very terrifying things. I can't wait to see where this goes. Blood Moon always has great horror stories. So, up next, the book Matt was waiting for most this week, Dwellings, the All Hallows Eve special from Oni Press, and the great Jay Stevens. If you haven't read Dwellings yet, I think we have the trade paperback in stock of the first volume, or
hardcover.
Hardcover? Isn't that is that just an issue up there?
One.
Okay, we have
That's
issue
third
1.
Print of issue 1.
We have third print of issue 1. And 2? Is that what you said?
Yeah, I think 3, 2.
Okay, nice. So if you haven't read it, essentially it is taking old, adorable comics like Casper and Hot One and things like that, and it is Harvey Comics. I didn't think people would know if I said Harvey Comics, so I was trying to name like
we're a professional organization.
We are, but I want to name the comics that they made so people know who don't know what Harvey is will know what they are. But they take that 2-dimensional art style and they turn it into cute, adorable characters, and they turn it into the darkest thing that you are going to read. Definitely not for children are cowards is its catchphrase. And this is all about some of our characters who are vampires, essentially, and they've got a man who is coming after them because he is trying to take out all of the vampires who live in this town, and he does it by taking out one of them, only to use their identity to sneak back into the town and pose as that friend and start going after all of the other ones. And we see our local therapist and one of her patients going on the mission to figure out who is still alive, who is not alive, how do we stop these bad guys, and how do we, make the world a terrifying place again for everybody involved. It is somehow both adorable and terrifying all at the same time, every time. This is a one-shot. It's just a special. It is the bridge between the original volume, the 3-issue volume of Dwellings, was volume 1, and the one that is coming soon to a comic shop near you. And by a comic shop near you, I definitely mean Bat City, because we will always carry Jay Stevens' great work, because it's so cool. We love it. All right. We've got the Donald Who Laughs versus Dark Brandon issue, which is a one-shot, in the world and Keenspot in the world of Biden's Titans, which I guess is in the world of Trump's Titans. But Keenspot is always always has this great political cartooning situation going on every election year, every year really, but the election year specifically. And I was actually really curious about this because Biden's Titans had been following along as Joe Biden had discovered the secret machine that Trump had used to create his own group of warriors, and now that were going throughout time and messing stuff up. And then Biden got them and was trying to stop all of that from happening. But I was really, really curious how they were going to end this, because they set it up to be very like Biden versus Trump. And then with Biden dropping out of the election, I was like, ooh, are they still going to do it? What are we going to see? Well, we actually get to see Dark Brandon and Trump fight in a parallel universe. They are not our Trump and Biden situation, but our Trump and Biden are actually watching this back in our world. And we see that in that world, this goes to a place where a woman is born who can actually stop everything wrong in the world that Trump is causing, according to that other universe. And our universe has to figure out who's actually going to win, because according to this, they both have thought they won and they both thought they lost, and we don't really know what's going to happen. This is complete and total political satire, and they even say at the end, you decide what you want the next issue to be by going out and voting on Tuesday, November 5th, because until they get the answer from the votes, they don't know where this is going to go. But it is satire. There is a reminder at the beginning, to continue to remember that it is all in fun and jest, and they make fun of everybody on all sides, and it stays completely and totally apolitical for the most part. So if you just like political satire like old SNL used to do, this is definitely a book to pick up. And it parodies comics at the same time, hence the Donald Who Laughs, which is a thing of the Batman Who Laughs, which is hilarious. And there's even Ivanka as Harley Quinn essentially in there, and we had the Superior AOC. It's crazy. Last week we also had a book I didn't get to, which was Def Leppard's Hysteria, and it was the 0 issue from Vault. And this is part of their Headshell imprint, which is their new music imprint, where musicians are going to be making comics for them. We've already seen the one from Slash and the one from Pete Wentz, Fallout Boy. Now we are seeing this story coming from Def Leppard, and this starts out with a band that's on an airplane and they're going to their next gig, and the pilot is like, hey, be careful, like, we're going into a storm. Meanwhile, one of the guys, like, cannot stop playing his guitar to the point where, like, his finger's bloody, and all of the guys try to take it away from him, and tragedy ensues. And then it just fast forwards to a completely different time and place, and it shows us a group of female musicians who are playing at a club, and it gets rowdy. The people are kind of just complete and total jerks, and they threaten the girls. They're in Chicago. They threaten the girls, and so they get violent like punk and, like, you know, go after the people, and somehow they're the ones that are arrested, not the people who attacked them. And now they're supposed to be recording their next album, and one of the girls is like out trying to find a new guitar because she doesn't have one, and the only way she can find it is to go to her dad's storage unit, and so she is going to pick up a guitar from there, and we're gonna find out. Maybe it's the same cursed guitar, we don't know, probably is. I can't wait to see where this goes, though. It's gonna be a really cool, like, haunted comic for sure. All right, Come Find Me, an autumnal offering from Distillery. And I love that it's kind of glossy, spot gloss on all the trees. This is Distillery's horror anthology one-shot for the holiday. But instead of just being for Halloween, it is for all of fall. The first story in here, oh my god, I read this so long ago. This first story in here is about a man who is haunted by beautiful music and wants to find where the music comes from and kind of control it and contain it, keep it for himself. And the way that happens is ghostly and tragic. The second story is by Becky Cloonan, and it is all about a woman who is a grave robber with her partner, and she ends up stealing the coin that's meant to help ferry somebody across, and because of that, she is now haunted and plagued by that decision, and the things that are coming after her and for her are just completely and totally tragic and terrifying, and beautifully drawn by Becky Cloonan. And then we get a couple of other stories. We have, what other stories do we have? We had, Down by the Water. Oh, yeah, that one's crazy. Some people who, some very, fall in love. There's something in the water. Go to check the water. Haunted by thing in water. Very bad ghostly situations coming up, and death and destruction. And I love the colors on that one. And then we had... is this the Vanessa Del Rey story? Yeah, this is all about the woman in town who is her partner passes away, and women aren't allowed to obviously have anything, and so the church kind of just shuns her, and how that plays out for her and for them after she is shunned is, the horrors of it all. And the sacrifices she makes and who she makes them to just kind of really leave her in danger. And then we have a story about someone out in the woods in the Alps, essentially. It's not the Alps, but it's somewhere like that. And just the lost person and the what is lurking behind there, and who is there and what they lost. And then, and then here we go. Then we have the warmth of the hunt, and this is honestly it's just stunning to look at. It's E.M. Carroll who's done some books with Silver Sprocket and things, and just that gorgeous art. It's almost a poem in the way the story is told. It's very verse-like, and you kind of have to follow along with the imagery. This is definitely one of those where the words and the images connect so perfectly together to tell that story. But a great installment in the horror anthology situation, and the first one from Distillery for a holiday book like that. So really cool to see, and I of course love this again, the glass cover. All right. I've got a couple of books as picks of the week, and I think one of them is actually from this week. The other two, I think, are actually from last week. And the first one, this goes in line with my Sesame Street love, but the Powerpuff Girls Halloween special is actually quite possibly my favorite of the Halloween specials. This is from Dynamite, and you can see the Shining inspired rug. This is actually literally just... Huh?
That's a Trish Forster cover.
No, not this. This one's... Is it?
And she gave me a whole thing on how she did it, how she was so excited to make the Shining rug out of the hearts on the cover.
She didn't do that one. She did the other one. She did the blue one.
Weird. She literally brought it over to me and said...
Oh, it says Cat Staggs did that one. I don't know.
Yeah, she was like really happy with it.
Oh, well, I don't know. Maybe it is. Because maybe they got the characters wrong on, or the artist wrong on who did which one. But this is literally just The Shining with the Powerpuff Girls. The three girls go on a trip because Buttercup wants to write a story. She wants to enter into a horror contest. And so she gets them to all go and stay at a hotel while she attempts to write her story. And so then we get to see the stories that she's writing. And I love it because at one point, like, Bubbles is like, why don't you just ask the lady who lives in the bathtub? And she's like, there's no lady in the bathtub. And she's like, that's not what the lady in the bathtub told me. And it is literally just chock full with references to The Shining. They've got Buttercup writes like 3 different stories, and none of them are ever scary enough for her. Meanwhile, the other 2 girls are actually just living The Shining in the background. There's even a point where they find a bear costume, and they're like, oh, what's this costume doing here? Actually, it's on this page. They end up like they encounter the twins. They encounter like the frozen Jack. There's so many things, and it even has a throwback to The Shining at the very end that is absolutely perfect. As a Shining fan, this was spot on, fantastic. I love it. So good. Seriously, I'd never even really watched the Powerpuff Girls, but I knew enough about them that I read the comics like with that like in mind, and I've become more of a Powerpuff Girls fan just from these comics. And this, you did The Shining with the Powerpuff Girls. You win. Like, way to make The Shining adorable. And then this week, Devour, which is a one-shot from Hyde Street, which is from Ghost Machine, came out. And Hyde Street actually made my picks of the week when it came out, and I really like what they're doing with their horror portion of their universe. And it's not actually done by Jeff Johns. It's done by a creative team that I'm really excited, and I hope we see more of the stuff that they do. But this is all about a woman. It's all about generational curses, okay? And that's really what I like about this, is that there's a generational curse. And that generational curse that is haunting this family is actually just the fact that our society forces women to be skinny. And it's the grandma is worried about how she's not skinny and she isn't going to fit into a certain style of what she's expected of her. And she ends up going into this this like health store that sells her a diet medicine that's supposed to help her get skinny. And then the grandma becomes kind of a jerk to her daughter forever, telling her she's too fat, she's too fat, she's too fat. And then we actually fast forward to when the granddaughter is getting married, and the grandma is making her feel bad for not fitting into the wedding dresses she's trying on, and is like, you've always been fat. Like, it's not because you're working, it's not because you're doing all of this, it's just because you've always been a little chunky, and you need to take on the diet pill, like the diet process that I've got your mom and myself on over the years. And the mom's like, I wanted her to learn for herself. And we get to see what that diet actually entails. And honestly, it's just a great way to talk about the fact that some of the most horrific things in this world is just how we treat each other. And the societal expectations that we put on people, and the way that becomes a way to essentially bully our own family over and over again forever. And as a woman, you see this happen so much in our world, and you see you see yourself start to feel bad for even little things. Like, she's a teacher, and in this scene, a little girl brings her a cupcake for her birthday, and she feels bad about wanting to eat the cupcake for the little girl's birthday. And that's terrifying. And the real life terrors of this book is actually why it was a pick of the week for me. And it was well written and well done. The art's really cool. But the fact that everybody's making these horror one-shots and these horror anthologies, and Ghost Machine was literally like the most terrifying thing that you can do is force somebody to feel bad about who they are as a person, was such a great addition to the horror anthology thing. And again, just society, stop telling women they're not beautiful how they are. Like, yeah, that makes you the bad guy. The book says so right here. If you're telling women that they got to be a certain way to be beautiful, you're the bad guy. Period. End of story. You know, there you go. And then lastly, I can't show you much of this, and I talked a little bit about it last week, and I said I wanted to read it, but I actually did read How to Steal an Election Before Somebody Else Does from Black Mask. This is issue 1, and I told you last week, I can't wait to read this because I know I'm going to love it, and I hope that I can show you something, and then I really couldn't. And now I've read it, and I really can't show you a lot, but I hope that... I'm going to show you this anyway, and we're going to hope it's okay. This is the same thing as a bathing suit, so it's fine. But this is all about a girl who's... a young woman who is running for president, and it comes out that she did some adult racy photos in her past, and they're like, this woman cannot run for president because she's done things in her past that we can't approve of that aren't presidential. And they're like, she's like, how is that fair? Like, all of the men have terrible pasts. They've done actual bad things. I just took photos because I needed money for college, and I didn't actually do anything wrong. And they're like, well, you're a woman and there's a different standard for you. And so she ends up calling her, like, all of her political affiliates, all of her campaign people, they all quit because they just don't want to handle it. So she has to come up with somebody else who can help her run her campaign. And so she reaches out to the very person that's been a manager for all of these women who have done all of these movies and photo shoots and stuff, and is like, hey, I need somebody who has no problem explaining what this is and also won't back down when the people come for them. And she's like, well, what is it that you want? And she's like, I want to win, and I'm going to make them feel bad about making women feel bad for having bodies. And she's like, okay, let's do it. And so they end up going about it like a real person. Like, they're like, she shows up to the Republican debates, and they're like, you're not a Republican. And she's like, it doesn't matter, I'm running for president. Why do you have to be one party or the other? Why can't we just actually come in and talk about the issues? I'm here to do that, and I'm here to talk about what the people of America actually want and what they actually need. And if you've got a problem with that, then you're not for America. And it's so great, and it's so refreshing, and it's kind of like, this is what we need, is somebody who's actually a real person to come in and just be a real person and run for real people. And I can't wait to see where this goes. I have a feeling it's Black Mask. It's going to keep getting better, and it's very just body positive and strong and female forward, and just a great book for the next season. We ended up with, we just went from Halloween to election season. Let's keep the seasonal books going with How to Steal an Election before somebody else does. And Black Mass, thank you for putting that out. Again, perfectly timed. All right, there's a couple other books in stock. I'm going to run through them really fast. We have Red Sonja issue 15 from Dynamite. There is a Penguin special. This is actually the tie-in comic for the Penguin show. So as soon as I catch up on the show, I will be reading this, but I will not read it beforehand. Namor issue 4 out this week. Wonder Woman Uncovered issue 1. This is one of those where it's just all of your favorite covers of the series that's going on so far. As essentially poster pullouts that you could put in your room if you wanted to. Ultimate X-Men number 8. Phases of the Moon Knight issue 3 with the new Moon Knight character, who's inspired by manga, and I'm actually really intrigued. I love her design, and I want to learn more about her. Predator vs. Black Panther issue 3, Conan issue 15, Captain America issue 14, Deadpool Team Up issue 3, lots of Deadpool still going on, and Wolverine connected to that. Spawn Kills Every Spawn issue 4 of 5, Spawn himself at issue 358, Amazing Spider-Man issue 60, and that is a huge issue. That is super oversized. I was looking to see if it was a big legacy number, but it's not. It's just a big issue. Star Wars: The Battle of Jakku, Insurgency Rising, issue 3. Star Wars: High Republic Adventures, phase 3, I think, issue 11. And then we've got a couple of trade paperbacks in stock. Army of Darkness, Forever, the first arc from Tony Fleece. This is a big Tony week. Of course, the week after he's here, it's a big... and then, how do I say this correctly? I know, I don't want to mess it up. Do you know how to say this?
Meshuggah.
It is Meshuggah, right? I wasn't sure. It means lunatic in Yiddish. But this is essentially a Jack the Ripper style story, but with like Jewish heritage. It sounds really, really good. And then the 70th anniversary of Godzilla hardcover is out, so this is really cool. It has a reprint of the Best of Godzilla one-shot, which collects issues from Godzilla Legends, Godzilla in Hell, Rage Across Time, and Rulers of the Earth. And if you're a Godzilla fan, this is just a must-have for your collection. Don't forget, we've got a lot going on in November. This will be up at the front of the store. It'll also be on our Instagram and Facebook, so you can keep up with all of the daily deals that we are doing all month long for our month of giving thanks to you. This Saturday from at 11:30 and 3:30, we've got Kids Comic Creation Workshops. The 23rd is the first ever Bat City Harvest Fest and Chili Cook-Off. I'm just so excited. I just want to keep saying we're having a chili cook-off. You can enter that by emailing us, contact@batcity.org or batcitycomicprofessionals@gmail.com, or come into the store and tell us all about how you want to make the world's best chili, and we'll get you signed up. Until then, keep an eye out again for that calendar tomorrow with all the deals, because you're not going to want to miss all of your favorite things going on sale. And don't forget, Wednesday is New Comic Book Day, so there's going to be lots of new books to read. We'll be talking about all of them here next Sunday night at 9 p.m. when we wind down your weekend. Until then, we'll see you around, and happy reading, everyone. Bye!